Welcome into discussion today. You know what time it is? It's 8:20. Your host, Ming Ahmad. I appreciate you guys tuning in during your crazy busy schedules and during this crazy busy time. So thank you. I tried to make sure that what I'm offering to you is my perspective on resilience, what I believe that all of us have within us, but maybe me offering some insights or some examples of what not to do, or maybe something you might want to consider doing, might help you in your journey. I can guarantee that listening to this podcast and all the other episodes that I put out so far under the 820 banner, while I cannot guarantee that I will change your life, I will guarantee that will change your perspective on this present moment. Today's topic is called plasma cutter. The plasma cutter. Now, I have no idea what that means. I got it from two dear friends of mine. One is like my brother, and one is a brother in arms that I served with in the 82nd Airborne Division many years ago. So this is a shout out to my brother Paco and my other brother Shane. These are two really real life badass men who do stuff with their hands. They build stuff. They create stuff. They deal with the land, with construction, with businesses, with families. They build all of that. So I give credit as examples to Paco and Shane. But on this plasma cutter thing, Emily's go to a definition. I have no idea why they're so enthralled with this thing called a plasma cutter. But they use that term when they see something that is quote unquote badass to them. Man, that's a plasma cutter thing. So anyway, here's what I found as a definition for a plasma cutter. It's for typical materials cut with a plasma torch include steel, stainless steel, aluminum, brass, and copper, although other conductive metals may be cut as well. Plasma cutting is often used in fabrication shops, automotive repair and restoration, industrial construction, Paco, and salvage and scrapping operations. So anyway, that's the definition of plasma cutting. I have no idea why Paco and Shane are enamored with this thing, but it seemed worthy of me to make it a 820 podcast episode. But to me, them using that term as something that is, literally cutting edge, badass stuff you use to build stuff or construct stuff. I think that's why they use the term plasma cutter. So as I consider that term in this episode, I guess it turns me into or guides me into other words like focus, rapier, razor-like focus on something. So maybe as I discuss these things about resilience and beauty and drive and desire, maybe quote-unquote plasma cutter can put a visual on how important I think being resilient is to me and hopefully to you. I'm thinking about that as a focus of your personal, seemingly small and insignificant light. All right? Remember, plasma cutter is for cutting stuff at high intensity, focus, energy, and I guess some sort of a energetic cutting mechanism. But it's got to be focused. But trying to use that analogy of the plasma cutter for our common, needed, razor-like focus on anything we need to do that guides us through our journey, our challenges, our successes, our failures. But let's say if our little personal, seemingly small, or it's really very small light, what we do in our lives, but that little light is also powerful enough to guide us, to lead us, to cut through the garbage distractions and diversions on your already tough path and journey. Plasma cutting. that focus, that attention to the truth. It is challenging to speak live and tell with confidence and conviction. It's difficult to do that, particularly when you have other things that are taking you away or taking your attention away from what you really need to do in this moment. So maybe that term, plasma cutter, is helpful in describing the power and force that I'm saying we all have under my construct of resilience. But that's true only if we observe the fact and communicate that fact forward. That we have that little light inside of us that's bright enough and strong enough to guide us through and cut through the garbage out there. Or we can choose to close our eyes to the brilliant sun and light within each of us. We can do that. But we might do that, meaning turn away from that internal light because we're afraid that it might burn our eyes. It's so bright. Instead of realizing that as the only way to see ourselves and our journey clearly. As I said, it's easy to turn away from those things that are simple yet powerful, like that little seed of wisdom or seed of faith we're all supposed to have, like a little mustard seed. Yeah, it's supposed to move mountains, but I know I probably have ignored, if I have that, I probably have ignored that possibility. Had a little inkling, a little seed of power and force and faith and hope. Now, looking for the big stuff to get me down the road or to that next accomplishment. I'm as guilty as hell of doing that. So, as I said before, this dispatch on resilience, in this case, using a term and an analogy called plasma cutter, it helps me to visualize what that means to actually be in the shop and doing stuff and building stuff and creating stuff like Paco and Shane have done throughout their lives. I see them as great personal examples that I know personally, and I've seen them in action. I've worked with them. I love them too. But I love what they do, and the love inside of them has driven them, not with a actual plasma cutter, although they might have one, but their example to me gives me hope and gives me guidance on how to get these words out to you, but also have them come back to me and then move me forward with my own plasma cutting energy. As I say, that little light inside of each of us, me and you, it's strong enough, yet light enough for us to have the ability and should have the intention to maintain it, to protect it, to feed it, to fuel it with a thing we all know as truth that will set us free. But that little light, that little small potential plasma cutter inside of each of us, we got to look at that, see through it, and not just to it. All right, get out there and buy yourself a plasma cutter and start cutting stuff. As always, you know what time it is. Stay current, stay present, because it's always 8:20.